Once more, welcome everyone. Welcome Kevin. Welcome other listeners. So all you need is in business is love. So let me start out with the premise that life is filled up with humans, people, and these people interact with each other. It becomes relationships, and love is the most efficient and most enjoyable relationship. And from Greeks we know that there's so many types of love out there, and it doesn't need to be romantic love, and that's why all you need in business is love. What I mean by that is that if you love your client, you're gonna do everything necessary. You will want to do everything necessary to fill the needs of the client. That means you will do all the research, you will do all the studies necessary to provide all the services. And if you realize that selling is not your thing, or you're really bad at selling, you might be compelled to go out and find some sales trainings to be better at selling your service. If you realize that you have insecurities about selling your service, you might, if you love your client so much, you will realize, okay, maybe it's not about me, it's about my client. Maybe I can do an inner work to actually be more confident providing my service. So that's what I mean in a nutshell, that all you need in business is love. So let me get back to so this was the kind of a broad overview. Let me go a bit deeper and let me get to my notes. It takes some time to switch because I've been just speaking from top of my mind so far. And okay, I got down to the notes. So bit of my background. So I started coaching about 2 years ago, and I started with stress management. So for the last 2 years I've been looking for everything that came into my field of vision through how does this correlate to stress, and what does it mean? Is it related to stress? How does it relate to stress? And how does it make me more productive, more loving, more caring? How does it relate, or does it relate to stress? And every time I hear word stress, light bulb goes on. Pay attention, Thomas, this is really important. And understanding how the brain works, how the decision making works, all these things. And what I learned while studying and working with people about stress is that first thing, we need to love our stress. Stress is inevitable, and stress is not only necessary and inevitable, but it's also at its worst, it's very detrimental, and it reduces our capacity to perform. So it's really important to build a good standing relationship with stress and understanding how stress impacts brain, body, and decision making and performance. And at the best, at the sweet spot, stress would be called flow state. So once we are able to regulate our stress within our body, how focused or relaxed we are, how focused and relaxed our nervous system is, we're able to target it at the optimal state, which is called flow state. And too much stress would be burnout, too much sustained stress would be burnout, too much stress in a short term would be overwhelm, anxiety, all these bad things that reduce productivity. Not enough stress would be apathy, lack of interest, being bored, and obviously in those states also we don't perform at our best. And one of the key things about flow state, it's usually you have this chart, the chart which shows relationship between capability or skill and challenge. So our task when we go through our lives, whether it's business, life performance, or relationships, or whatever the task we are at hand, is to stay engaged, to stay at optimal focus, we need to juggle the or skill level with challenge we're facing, or create more challenge or reduce the challenge we're facing so it matches our skill. I'll give you an example. Today I was having a chat with a friend, and at some point I got bored with the chat, so I didn't receive much information. However, for me to stay engaged and active and curious and focused with the conversation, I needed to come up with additional challenges inside of the conversation. So inside of my own mind, I started analyzing the conversation not only from the perspective of the person, from the speaker, but I also start analyzing from different perspectives, like how does it relate to the stress? How does it help me with my business? How does it relate with feeding children? Whatever the topics in my mind. Like that's not the point. So the idea is to introduce additional challenges in our life when the challenge is too low, so we stay optimal flow state. So the person feels that I respect him, the person feels heard, listened to. I stay in a flow state, person gets what it needs, and I'm matching the challenge I have, because I cannot control what's happening outside the world, but I can control what's happening inside. So let me continue with keys to flow state. So, okay, we know there's this flow state, we know we need to match our skill level and challenge level, and there's a couple of tricks we can use to do it mentally, so we adapt it. We can either increase our skill or decrease our skill, change the focus area, chunk the task down, put too much tasks, more tasks together, so it feels a bit more challenging. We can do all these things mentally. And if I have anyone giving me specific examples, I would love to go into a deeper discussion how to do this for your specific case. However, until that point comes, just continue on. So the keys to flow state. So the first thing to enter the flow state, we need to have outcome, focus, something to looking forward. So if we don't have specific outcome, specific goal, specific target, something to put our attention to, we're unlikely to go into flow state. So whenever we have a task, whenever we have something to do, we have to be clear on what's our outcome. And quick example. So whenever we have a meeting, let's say we have a business meeting with 15 business partners, or in a company, colleagues, the most important part before we start the meeting is to have a clear outcome. Because what happens usually with all these meetings, the outcome of the meeting is waste 1 hour on a meeting and talk about some stuff. And logically, some of the people will get bored, will not want to go into the meeting, will lose attention, and that's not a very effective way how to conduct these kind of meetings. The more effective, more practical way of doing it would be having a clear outcome and stopping the meeting whenever the outcome is finished, so people can carry on and go on with their lives and get busy. Because some people like taking action, get busy, get things done, and some people like to just chat. And I would be more of the person who likes to just get stuff done, get busy, get going. And other people, they value more of just chatting, connecting with people. And so that's the first one. We need to have clear outcome. Okay, we have an outcome. We know what we want. We want to, let's say, get six-pack. We want to have six-pack and abs. And we want to sell people. So we want to sell six-pack to people because this is business discussion. And in order to sell the six-pack, I need to have an example. So probably I need to have six-pack myself or find someone who has six-pack. So we have outcome. Awesome. So what's the next step? We need to find a way to measure our success. So we need to have feedback. So whenever we want to make sure that we are on a track, whenever we want to sustain flow state, we need to have immediate feedback. let's go back to the business meeting example. So we have a clear goal why this meeting actually started, and during the meeting it's important to keep track. Are we moving towards fulfilling the outcome and goal of the meeting, or we are just chatting? And whenever we catch ourselves getting off the track, getting ourselves carried on with the meeting and chatting and doing all kinds of unnecessary stuff, or we think we're moving forward, but when we actually examine what's happening under the more detailed view, we realize that we're actually not moving forward at all. We're just solving problem of the problem of the problem of the problem, which might not be needed to solve. So therefore, to sustain flow state, we need to have immediate feedback. And as I mentioned before, the third thing that we need to have in the flow state is having a right level of challenge. So if the meeting is too boring, if there's no challenge for you in the meeting, then what are you doing in the meeting? Is there anything else how you can increase the challenge? Maybe you can speak up. Maybe for you to raise the challenge of the meeting is actually speak your mind and give your feedback and actually challenge yourself. Maybe you're shy, maybe you don't want, maybe you're scared to offend the boss, your business partner. Maybe that's how you stay engaged in the meeting. You face your fear, you go a bit over the board, over the things that you feel confident with, and just do it. And fourth one, so in order to sustain flow state, we need to have concentration. The biggest thing that disturbs our productivity in business, in life, is too many distractions. The simple thing when you have a meeting, we have a project to work on, disable notifications on the phone and leave maybe some urgent things like, I don't know, a phone call from certain people on, and the rest of the notifications disabled, phone turned upside down, no disturbances. As another thing that can disrupt our concentration is just messy environment, colleagues chatting around, people coming, disturbing you, talking to you. And in order to have the job done, there's two ways how to enter flow state. One is when you're switching from task to task to task, which is kind of a fluid flow. And another one is deep flow state. So when you completely isolate, alone, and deep work. And for most of us, for most of the workers, we need to have that deep flow state. And that means no interruptions, so we can actually concentrate. That means no one coming up to us, asking us how to solve problem X, problem Y. That means also to no need to answer emails, no need to have answer to messages, nothing that can distract us from our main goal. Because in order to stay in flow state, we need to have a clear goal, which is that one thing that we're working on right now at a specific moment, one outcome. We need to have immediate feedback, and everything else is distraction. And the more we concentrate on our focus, on our outcome, the faster we can get there, and the rest of the things we can tackle later. So idea is to chunk down, reserve specific time slots that work for you, and the times of the day that work for you. To have that deep work, maybe it's 1 hour for you, also maybe it's 2 hours, maybe it's 4 hours, depending on the type of work you do, depending on the lifestyle you live, and all these things, these are variables. Finding out what works for you. And that's part of the self-love. Coming back to the topic, all you need in business is love. So if you truly love yourself, you want to be most productive as you can, to have your body treated in a way it needs to be treated. That means no extra stress, no unnecessary stress. The most productivity, most fulfillment, most satisfaction. And as we're in a flow state, we have so many really feel-good hormones having through our body, that our body is saying, I feel good, give me more of that. When we're stressed and we're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, our body says, I'm getting sick, get me out of here, I don't want to be here, do something about it. So if we love ourselves, we want to put ourselves into the state that is most good feeling. And a flow state is one of the best states to put oneself in, which is feel good and productive. So not only we feel good, but you're actually doing meaningful stuff that makes a difference. And the final one about the flow state, which I already started going towards, the flow state is autotelic experience, which in simple words means it's self-rewarding. So the idea is that whatever task, whatever thing we're doing, it has to be rewarding. And in an ideal world, it's self-rewarding. So you don't need any external awards. So just joining the meeting and maybe speaking up, maybe giving some input is already rewarding enough for you to go into the flow state, to enjoy, and to have the reward of being in a meeting. So that means you don't need a raise or praise, no nothing, no muffins or none of that stuff is needed for you to actually enter the flow state and feel appreciated. You appreciate yourself. And that's why I really, really encourage people to start with yourself. So self-love, first and foremost, you reward yourself internally. And then, of course, you allow yourself to be rewarded and accept other people's appraisal, rewards, all these things, or that's secondary only after you actually have rewarded yourself internally. So those are the keys to the flow state. And the next topic I want to cover in this discussion is, okay, we know there's this flow state, we know what we need to get in there. How do I get in there? Is there anything stopping me? Yes, the only thing that's stopping you is desire to be there and belief that you can do it. And the biggest challenge for people who are not committing and not making flow as their priority is the belief that either they can do it, or it's too hard, or it's unreachable. Basically, it's put on a pedestal. Or they just simply don't want because they're already in such a low state that they don't really have desire to change anything. So the first step is self-love. You love yourself, so bring yourself up to the high enough emotional, intellectual, feeling good state that you actually desire to feel better and better and better. Therefore, you actually want to find ways how to stay feeling good consistently. And the simplest thing to objection handle the beliefs that you cannot get into the flow state is realizing that flow state isn't same for everyone, is not the same each and every time you get into it, and it doesn't have to be complete blackout of the outside world and complete focus. There are degrees to state of flow. Degrees which change depending on the time of the day, your mood, how well you rested day before, how well you slept, what you ate, how challenging is task. All these variables compound together, and that determines level of flow state you are in. And the biggest challenge for committing to the flow state is expectation, how it should be. And the same principle applies to all the people who have tried to meditate. The expectation out there for everyone who has heard anything about meditation is that you have to be enlightened. If you're not enlightened, you're not meditating. If you don't feel any physical changes in your body, if you don't feel bliss state instantly and on a flip of the fingers, you're not meditating, you're not monk, you're failed. Not true. And the same principles apply to flow state. Flow state is not only the thing we see in high-performing athletes doing, it's not only the thing we see musicians, programmers going to the really focused, and you cannot eat, you completely forget about eating, you completely forget about everyone else, you're just on that one task, so focused, so determined, and you just love the process. Yes, that's part of the flow state, but that's not how most of us, including me, are experiencing the flow state on a day-to-day basis. Let me repeat again. Flow state doesn't mean completely going berserk, blissed out, losing all the control of yourself, and just automatically doing the work and waking up afterwards and seeing all the work is done I have no idea how it happened. It was a magical experience. That's not how we should expect what the flow state is. And once we accept that flow state will be different, might be quite calm, peaceful, and just gentle twinkle of feeling good and enjoying the process is good enough for you to continue committing and going towards studying, practicing from moment to moment. And this is the lesson I'm bringing in here from my yoga practice. And this is what lesson which each and every yoga teacher, good yoga teacher, will tell you. Yoga practice does not start and end on coming onto the mat. Yes, it's true that on the mat, the yoga practice is more focused, more dedicated, and more intense than when you step off the mat. However, that intense work on the yoga mat is just inspiration to keep the same work, finding ways how to do the same work off the mat, how to apply same principles, same lessons off the mat into the daily life. And the same principle I want to encourage you to apply here when it comes to the flow state. What I mean by that is that yes, you have these specific tasks, specific things, specific outcomes you want to achieve, and some of them are easy, some of them are hard, and sometimes you get into the deep flow state. You learn from it, you observe it, you analyze it, and then you apply the same principles when you go shopping. You apply the same principles when you wash your dishes. You get into the state of flow, you know your outcome, you have immediate feedback, how many dishes you washed, how many are left, how much time it will take to get there. You have a right level of challenge. Maybe the water is not hot enough to remove the grease. Maybe you need a bit more soap. Maybe you need to reduce the level of hot water so it gets a bit more challenging for you to do the dishes with the cold water. Maybe you need to spice things up because maybe you're too stressed, so you want to brush a bit more. You want to have a bit more of a, challenge. So maybe you want to burn some of the things if you're cooking. Nothing is concentration. Maybe you need to put some music in the background. So there's a bit of a disturbance. So there's a bit of tuning in, and has to be self-rewarding. So you have to feel good while doing the thing. And the simplest way how to feel good is to just tell yourself and ask yourself. Smile. Put a smile on your face and ask, what do I enjoy about this process? Am I actually enjoying it? And from my experience, when the COVID came and I was taken into my apartment and started teaching yoga online, and started making videos, putting them online on YouTube, Facebook, and I had this task putting on thumbnails, and I realized I cannot pick a thumbnail which looks good, because in each and every one of them I look so miserable, sad, stressed, worried, and my face just does not portray the joy I think I feel when I'm practicing. Because I'm always worried about what's the next move, am I judging myself, and all these things happening. And I barely would smile. And it took me months to actually get to a state where I could remember myself to put a smile a couple of times throughout the class. So I actually had a couple of thumbnails to choose from, that was fine. To the state where I actually can once in a while remember to actually enjoy this experience. So don't get discouraged if you don't enjoy the experience you think you should be enjoying. It's perfectly normal. We're all judging ourselves, we're all struggling with some things, and when the challenge is too much, we set back to our usual states, and that's perfectly fine. And that's part of the self-love, self-acceptance, and self-respect. And I would love to finish this presentation. Hopefully it will turn into discussion at some point. Once we find a medium, maybe I would transition to Clubhouse or something. Anyway, where I have some feedback and discussion going on, is my definition of self-love. Self-love is putting well-being and happiness as a top priority. So having a high regard for well-being, one own well-being and happiness. That's self-love. And my own definition is self-love is feeling good consistently, sustainably. So if you're taking care of your health, you're guaranteed to feel good physically. If you take care of your emotional health, you're very likely to feel good emotionally because you're able to adapt and be good in any situation regardless of what's happening around it. And if you take care of your mental health, you process your past triggers, traumas, challenges, and all these things that may come up at some point, and you're less likely to get swept up and go down a negative spiral. So that's why I say the self-love is self-respect. And self-respect means ability to look back at yourself and feel good about decisions you made and the decisions you're about to be making. So practice self-love and self-respect regularly, and your business will thrive. Thank you so much for this, for joining me, for your time, and hope to see you on our next one.